Hi everyone, welcome to the latest episode of Liquidware Chats. In this episode, I talked to John Moody-Waters, who's the Presales Director at IGEL. We talk about how John came to be in EUC. He goes into a little bit about his role and the thing that excites him the most about his role. We also then look at about the collaboration between IGEL and Liquidware and why we've had such a long and successful partnership. We then talk a little about the now and next event that's coming up. And then we finish, as always, with our look at how AI is impacting EUC. Enjoy the episode. Hey, John, how are you doing?
I'm great, James. How are you?
I am good. It's a lovely sunny day, despite what my background looks like. It is actually a sunny day here in Ireland, so that's good.
And I think officially hottest day of the year so far. We've got I'm in Nottingham in the UK, and we've got a balmy 19 today. So, that's barbecue weather in my book.
19 degrees in March. Yeah, absolutely.
Crazy.
I know, crazy. So anyway, just to kick us off, John, we've all been involved in this mad world of EUC for quite a while. So I just kind of wanted to get an idea of, one, what made you want to get into EUC and kind of what path did that take?
Oh, wow. That's a great question, James. So I kind of fell into EUC by accident. And it goes back many, many years. So I was at university up in Leeds. And part of my degree, I did business information systems, so databases and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As my degree, and in my third year, we had to do like a work placement, and I was really terrible at that kind of thing. So my work placement was actually at the university. It was like the cheap option, and I worked in essentially PC support. So I used to break laser printers as a hobby. And
we've all done that.
We've all done that, yeah. Yeah.
Not as a hobby, out of pure frustration.
Just pure frustration. I used to collect the printer test page for HP Desktop 500s as a joke, and I had my desk in the office used to be just full of printer test pages. And anyway, so that was like Windows 3.11. Windows for Workgroups was our standard OS, and we built a new building during that work experience year, and at the time there was this weird little kooky technology called Citrix going about, and we were implementing all these student labs, and the decision was taken to implement initially MetaFrame 1.8 into these student labs. And I got involved in that project because there was overtime at the weekends. And the overtime at the weekends involved installing this thing called an ICA DOS client on these I can't think, like 486 kind of standard PCs that were horrendous. And I used to get overtime at a weekend to go and install this ICA DOS client and then physically bolt the PC to a desk. And I got towards the end of this work placement, and there obviously mergers were happening across the university, and a job came up as a senior network engineer, which I applied for and didn't get. But so impressed with my application they created a new role of junior network engineer, and I got that. And I worked with a lovely chap called Gareth, who was the newly installed Citrix guy, I suppose. He was my first ever Citrix guy. And hey, Gareth, if you're listening, he's up in Keighley now running his own huge consultancy business. And me and Gareth used to run the Citrix for Leeds Met University. And like I say, that was MetaFrame 1.8. Real early days kind of Citrix. There was a rumor that we were the largest EMEA implementation at the time. Now I have no idea if that's true or not, so don't hold me to that one. But that was really it. And I did my first Citrix exam, which was NFuse, and that was it. I was hooked. And just the way that this magical technology worked, I put my OS here on this weird server, and then it's just the pixels that come down to them. But it absolutely fascinated me, and I was hooked ever since. And that really, has been the career up to this point. Different roles. I've gone through, tech support, done architecture consultancy, did many years at Computer Center, working with a great team there, doing implementations and rollouts of EUC workspaces. And then, here we are back at the endpoint working at IGEL. So, it's been fun.
You've gone full circle.
It does feel a little bit like that, actually. It's quite it's quite strange. And it was funny enough, it's a line I use with customers all the time, actually. And it's like the one thing that's always confused me is you take my Leeds Met implementation, and we virtualized Windows in the data center, and we used a DOS client. And the thing that's always confused, why did we stop doing that? I mean, obviously, I'll slightly take that in jest, but in reality, what happened is we ended up deploying Windows again, be able to access the Windows that I've already paid to virtualize. So there's always been that kind of, I don't quite get that bit about it, in which I think without wishing to sound like an IGEL advert, is genuinely one of the reasons why I'm here, because I think there's a really good, interesting message there.
Speaking of IGEL, just in case anyone's never heard of them, let's give a brief kind of overview of them, and what do you think kind of makes them unique within the EUC space?
Okay. So if you have heard of us before, welcome back. If you've never heard us before, IGEL, or the IGEL platform, is essentially a secure endpoint operating system. We replace whatever OS you have installed on your endpoint currently, and we do that in a very secure way, which means that you don't need to implement additional security agents. So our OS inherently is read-only. So there's no need to put antivirus on there. You don't need VPN clients. You don't need things, the data loss prevention agents, because users can't store anything locally. Everything's trusted in boot from as soon as you get up. We're really designed for how end users access applications today. So if you're still running Windows apps, that's fine. We can broker in those connections from your Citrix environment, from your Omnicia environment, from your Microsoft AVD. We can run those side by side. However you choose to do that, we can either boot directly into those sessions if that's something that you want to do, or we offer a full desktop experience, and then you can blend together your Windows apps with your SaaS applications. So I think probably the thing for me is, I think probably the future of applications is the OS as the browser. It's like, why do you need to deploy 65 gig of an OS to be able to access apps in your browser? Something nice, clean, thinner, that just has the software and that you need to do to get your job done. And we do that across all the major verticals, healthcare, FinServe being key ones for IGEL. And it's just about giving users a great user experience, but on a device that just turns on and works, looks, it's nice, friendly to use, but you've got that inherent security that you get with the IGEL platform.
Excellent. That's a very good overview. So delving a bit deeper, let's talk a little bit about your role at IGEL, and also what excites you most about your role.
Okay. So my role at IGEL, I lead a team of currently 11 SEs, but that's covering UK, Asia Pacific, and what we call emerging markets, which is essentially our countries up in the Nordics, Benelux, MEA, all around that, and then into sort of Southern Europe. And really, my team are the trusted advisors to our customers. So the teams will go out with their sellers, and they're going out visiting customers, making sure the IGEL platform is fit for purpose, that it fits the use case that the customers looking at working with, offering advice on how we would do things, or solutions advisory. Sometimes you may have heard as referred to, and then if need be, guiding that customer through activities like proof of value or proof of concept. And really, what we're trying to do at that point is the criteria that the customer has set out for us to meet, that actually the IGEL platform is fit for purpose. So I suppose my role in that is I'm kind of leading that team. I do a lot around best practices in terms of how we engage with customers. We call it discovery internally here at IGEL, and it's having that innate curiosity, right? I tell the team quite often is I have a 3-year-old son, right, and he's just like curious about everything at the moment, and he'll ask the same question repeatedly because he's just keen, and it's almost having that like childlike mentality about a customer, that innate curiosity. I think one of the guilty things that we get in pre-sales or with any software vendor is, we've seen this use case before. You might have seen that use case before, but your customer is unique. And it's about, almost leaving that at the door and just trying to understand the customer in their language about, how potentially our solution could fit. So that's kind of, I suppose, in a nutshell, what I'm trying to do.
And what kind of excites you most about your role?
Yeah, right. Number one, it's always talking to customers, right? I don't do as many customer calls as I perhaps like to, certainly in terms of my field SEs. But I do like to get involved in the customer calls. That is always the thing that excites me. That and obviously talking to our partner network as well. I absolutely love presenting at events and doing podcasts with you, James. That's clearly the highlight of my day. But really, I think I suppose just kind of the kind of manager I am. I suppose the biggest thing for me is coaching, right? And I've got a couple of SEs who, when I first joined IGEL, maybe weren't so confident with presenting, and seeing that come alive and seeing them do better at that. That's really for me. It's that kind of, trying to get your SEs to like the best place they possibly can be. That's kind of what really excites me. And yeah, just seeing where we're going next as well,
Yeah,
which I think
and
we'll come to in a bit. But
and just you mentioned use cases there. What
Hmm.
what kind of are some of the big use cases you're seeing for IGEL at the moment? Is it around things like Windows 11 migrations, or
yeah, I think everybody's getting quite nervous about obviously Windows 10 end of life later this year. I think everybody's getting quite nervous
14th of
about
October 2025?
14th of October, mighty calendars now. We are. I think there's a lot of nervousness. I tell you what really surprises me about that is the amount of customers who are doing literally nothing at the moment. So I think if you are a customer watching this and you think, oh God, I'm the only one who's not migrating at the minute. Oh no, there's loads of people who are still, I even spoke to one customer, I think we're just going to pay for the extended support, which was really I was really surprised by that.
I'm not.
Um,
I'm not. I have to say I'm
no,
not, because we had the same thing with Windows 7,
Windows
particularly
7, yeah, true.
with particularly here. I'm sure it was the same in the UK, but in Ireland, like, the government just paid the extended support because they couldn't get things moving quick enough.
Right.
And it's only recently they've probably moved to Windows 10, and now they're like, oh no, we have to go to Windows. What? To do another
Yeah.
massive migration?
You
So
told us that was the last time we would
yeah,
upgrade.
exactly. You told us
Yeah.
this last time that we migrate to Windows, but yeah, I think a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of differences between Windows 10 and 11, like the security settings, the TPM and all that kind of
Mm,
stuff. Like, there are ways and means around it. I found one but I
yeah.
wouldn't do that across a 40,000 user
No, of
estate.
course you're not. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
exactly. I will do it on my own personal
yeah,
PC because I wanted to
yeah,
test out Windows 11.
yeah.
But
I mean,
um,
Microsoft clearly think that TPM is a requirement for Windows 11. There's a reason for that, right?
exactly.
That's and so I think avoiding that, I think that'll be an interesting support call.
Yeah, and kind of focusing on that kind of Windows 11.
Mm,
Obviously, Liquidware and IGEL have had a very long partnership, and one of the things that Stratosphere does is all around the assessment of your environment and
right.
looking at how you can either extend the life of your existing hardware or potentially move it on to something such as IGEL. And I think that's kind of, we also have our UX app for OS
Hmm.
12. We were the first one.
Hmm.
Small
Yeah,
plug. so so we've been partnered with yourselves for quite a while, and I think we bring a lot of joint value.
yeah. I think I'm just going to go back to where do you see the use cases? I think Windows 11 is a great conversation topic, which gets us into a conversation. I think that's, that is obviously a play that we have right now, and an important one at that. The only thing that I slightly hesitate about is that the only thing IGEL is about is, well, I've got these laptops that won't take Windows 11, therefore I can repurpose them with OS 12 and extend the life. I think that's a great message. I think it's a really
Mhm.
important sustainability message. I think what then tends to happen is then when we explain to customers actually what the IGEL platform can do, there is so much more. So whether that's around, remote working, hybrid working. So I completely work on an IGEL device. I work at home predominantly. That's on an IGEL device. I receive my app updates and work absolutely fine. So there's a remote
Mhm.
work use case where typically in the past we'd have just bought a brand new Windows 11 laptop, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now I still might have to buy new equipment because I think it's a great conversation topic to say, we can extend the life of your devices, but if you're trying to attract new young workers into your workforce, I don't think realistically you're going to get away with giving them a 6-year-old laptop, right? I think that's just
Yeah, no. Most of
But
them
what
probably
you
want
can
Mac.
do with
Most of them
IGEL,
probably want Macs as well.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely, right.
yeah.
But I think the thing with IGEL is okay. Even if you're in that market, if I need to go buy new IT equipment, and let's be honest, that happens. I
Hmm.
don't need to be going out buying the high end, i7, i9 processor, or whatever my
With
60
a, with
plus
a, with
100
a dedicated GPU and all that.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can go. I mean, the device I'm running now, it's like an i3,
Hmm.
and it doesn't sweat. And, you know, do most workers care about machine performance, or actually are they more bothered about getting their job done?
And then what are you using once you're on it? Are you using something like Windows 365 or?
The only time I bring, we use AVD.
Yeah.
The only time I'm having to break into Windows at the moment, genuinely, is if I'm writing a really hardcore PowerPoint deck and I need certain features of PowerPoint that are not in the progressive web app. So then this comes into the next use case. So at the moment, I'm running full Office on a
Mm-hmm.
Linux device, right? Obviously, Microsoft don't make Office for Linux, so how on earth are you doing this, the crazy guy? So I'm just using the PWA apps. So Teams, Outlook, PowerPoint, Word, Excel, etc. My OneDrive, I just have there's progressive web apps. We have a progressive web app container available on the IGEL desktop. There's my Office apps, including Teams. I can do full voice. We have a Zoom client as well, which is what I'm using right now. I can do this kind of thing. I've got my podcast mic just here, which is hooked up, and that's all just working for me. So I'm not even having to touch Windows. The only time at the moment I'm having to touch Windows, if I just have to do something particularly on the, I've found, other people's use cases will vary, but just on that particular complex PowerPoint stuff. And even then, if I was a customer, I'd probably just deliver that as a published app, right? I don't need to
Mm-hmm.
necessarily break into a desktop. That's just for my own, it's just how I choose to work.
Mm.
So, and what I've found since doing that is actually most of my day, actually, I'm in a browser most of the time. Yeah, I have my nice PWA containers just from a UX perspective. But if I'm having to, break out into Concur for do my expenses or Bamboo, our HR system, that's all web based.
Mm.
Actually, the number of Windows apps I really need to touch, other than, like I say, other than the Office suite,
Mm.
nothing. But I work in pre-sales, right? If you're a customer of line of business applications and you've got that Windows requirement, you can deliver along those apps alongside your web apps and your progressive web apps alongside on an IGEL desktop and have that and still have that great user experience without having to deliver the 65 gig of other people's desktops.
Very true. Um, so you have a big event coming up soon.
Yes, we do. Do we? I've not heard anything
I
about
don't,
it.
I don't
Do
know.
tell.
I think it's in Miami or something like
In
that.
Miami?
I don't know.
At the Fontainebleau Hotel, perhaps next week.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe.
So, do you, can you say like what are the kind of key themes of the event?
I can tell you it's going to be bigger than better than ever. I don't want Carl from marketing coming down on me. I've had a sneak peek of some of the announcements, and I'm not going to tell you any of them. But I
That's
think
not fair. That's
I know. I'm
ridiculous.
sorry. That's just how it's good. That's
No
just how
exclusives.
no exclusives. Sorry. But there are some very, very interesting announcements. I will give this hint. If you were at Disrupt in Frankfurt, you and I were both there last November, Munich rather, and you saw us. We were looking at we launched the digital display use case. So that's taken, IGEL OS, taking away the desktop, giving you a nice, clean, simple app to do digital display. I think some people are a little bit like, what, really? It's like, yeah, but you look at the amount of digital displays that are out there, airports, healthcare, FinServe, even, it's just such a massive use case for us to go after. And if you call that like the operational IoT space, I'd be expecting some really interesting announcements around that space. And I think it's, yes, IGEL is a comprehensive, easy to use desktop OS for day-to-day usage of apps and desktops, or kiosk mode with just a published desktop to a VDI session, digital display, maybe some other cool stuff, but then being able to manage all of that through a single platform. So what we see is that our IT industry, if you like, as a whole, don't just mean the EUC space. I mean all of what we call corporate IT, merging and getting closer to the operational technology side. The robots in the factory, right, that were installed 25 years ago, they're still running the same stuff. Is how can IGEL actually help when these two environments start to collide? Because traditionally, IT would never have gone there; would have left that well alone.
Yeah.
But now we're starting to see that kind of convergence, and it's like, how can IGEL help in that space? So there's that. More sessions than ever before. That was a direct result of feedback from people who've gone the years before. So there's a load more breakout sessions, particularly around how you're going to scale UMS and how UMS is going to adapt and change in the future. We've then got boot camps from key partners as well. So they're going to be running their own sessions whereby you can see how IGEL works with their particular technology. There'll be the usual, I think Klaus has said 20 odd announcements we're going to make next week. And then there's the specific industry tracks. And I think this is really interesting, actually. So we've got specific tracks around healthcare and I think critical infrastructure and FinServe. And say on the healthcare track, for example, we've got industry experts. We've got a couple of people flying out from the UK to talk about the NHS. And then, if you are a healthcare customer and you want to network and we see what everybody else is doing in healthcare, right? You can go along to that specific track and do that. And obviously IGEL will be there, but it'd be great if we can get that kind of collaboration. Often customers don't get to see each other. So I think trying to bring a bit of that, hey, where somebody else made a mistake, so you don't repeat it. One of the, so I think that's a really, really, really positive thing. And then there's the after show party, a big nightclub with a famous pop star that I'm not allowed to mention, but if you Google it, you will find it.
Yes, I'm aware of who it is.
Yes. It's a very straightforward Google, everybody. Just go Google it. But we're not allowed to talk about it. It's very odd. But that after party sounds amazing. I genuinely really wish I was going for that. But yeah, there'll be the usual peer networking stuff. Chance to get to speak to IGEL product management as well. So tell us how there'll be our big booth there. So tell us what you think of the product, what you'd like to see. The PMs and the dev team are going to be there in full force. So yeah, I think that could be a really great show.
And I know there's also the community stage, and
indeed,
we have our own session there. So I'm going to give it a plug now.
Right.
Tom, who's one of our solutions architects, will be doing a session about maximizing your Windows 11 migrations and user experience with IGEL Secure OS. So don't miss that. I think it's on the Wednesday of the show. So that will be one that thanks to Renee and Seb for helping us out and getting that organized.
Indeed, and I think the community stage that's one of my favorite stages, is community, because it is one of those that it keeps that candle of the EUC community well alive, and we can just have a couple of beers, we can chat about each other's technologies, and I think that session sounds genuinely really interesting, actually, because I think that's the top of mind stuff. Hey, we spoke earlier. Hey, customers might not actually be doing it. They know it's coming. So what technology can we bring? Whether that's using Liquidware and IGEL together, how can we make? Actually, maybe I don't migrate. Maybe I just do something different. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And also one thing to point out is, as we mentioned, we have support for IGEL via Stratosphere, but we also have another solution called Command Control, which is our real-time remediation solution. And that a new release will be coming in the next couple of weeks, and that will include support for IGEL devices.
Awesome.
And I have seen this running. It works. You're able to interact with an IGEL device, get all the metrics, interact with it. You can even do like Linux shell, everything. So that is coming very, very soon. So I think at the show we should be able to demo that. So that's
brilliant
something to look out for. Any other thoughts on the show? Obviously, you're not going to tell me any of the announcements, which I'm really disappointed about. But I know Klaus. I know Klaus will murder you, so
Yeah. You phone him and ask him. I think Mark Templeton, I believe, is presenting.
I saw that. Yes,
yeah. I think that's
who's who of EUC is kind of
the Godfather himself.
Yes, indeed.
Scott Manchester as well. He always does a really interesting session. I love Scott Manchester, so I love both of those as presenters. I love looking at great presenters and thinking, how can I steal your tips and tricks? And both Mark and Scott, different approaches, but tell an amazing story. So I'm genuinely excited about that. Klaus as well, he'll be sort of announcing the direction of IGEL, which I think if you're a customer considering us or looking at us, you're going to want to understand what's our thinking on the world and where do we see things going. And really, it's always been that focus on actually, it's about securing the endpoint, right? 75% of breaches are happening at the endpoint. How do we stop that from happening? We think our approach is very simple, but it's effective. And so you get to hear more about that from Klaus. You'll obviously have our CTOs there. Matthias Hass will be there presenting on the roadmap, etc. James Millington as well be going into our vertical solution. So yeah, it's like, for us who aren't going, so I'm not able to go, we're hoping it's going to be a quiet week next week because everybody's in Miami. I suspect the reality will be very different. But, if you are going, I hope you all have a great time. So I'm sure it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Excellent. So we've avoided it up to now, but
okay.
Obviously AI and EUC are
sure.
It's becoming more and more predominant in EUC. So I just wanted to kind of get what your thoughts are around AI and EUC, and in your opinion, where it is at the moment, is it just hype, or are there actual practical benefits that you've seen?
No, I don't think it's hype at all. I think we're maybe, in terms of, there is a lot of hype that goes around it, but is it hype? No. Are you using it in your day to day?
Yes, every day.
Right. Yeah. So I'm using it day to day right now. We've been very fortunate that we now have corporate AI now, which I think was a great decision by our CIO. The thing that when the AI thing first came around, it was a little bit like, we used to have the whole shadow IT problem.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had shadow AI for quite a while, right? And people using things like ChatGPT in a browser, uploading NDA documents, the works, and now, at least with the corporate offerings, it's tied to your own data. Now, obviously, if I've talked about this before, but basically, if you don't have proper data management in place, do not bring an AI into the mix, because it's going to cause chaos. If someone goes, "What is the CEO's salary?" Well, there you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So it'll be the same. There'll be new lessons to be learned that'll be based on the lessons that we should have already learned when the cloud was a thing, when you and I were a lot younger. Can you believe that AWS is 19 years old? Doesn't that make you feel really old? Yes, it did me. That 19 years old, AWS.
19 years.
Wow. Anyway, sorry, I digress.
That's fine. No, that's fine.
I mean, I'm using AI, like similar to yourself, Dave, day in, day out, and I use it a variety of use cases, and smartening up my emails. I do quite a lot of data analysis with it if I'm, doing sales reports, etc., just to make that a little bit more efficient. I'm terrible with Excel, right? Pivot tables are just lost on me. I'm hopeless with Excel. My wife is amazing at it. And if I need a pie chart, then, that's where I go for help. But now I can just ask that thing to do it for me, or at least show me how to do it. And that speeding up, where I'm wasting my time, right? And that, as an assistant, I think is amazing. And that has genuinely changed my work. I think what will happen, my prediction would be there'll be those that do and those that can't. And I wonder if this is going to be maybe like the next BYOD. That we've all, I mean, in the olden days, we used to talk about millennials joining the workforce. You must have done that presentation, James. Millennials joining the workforce now, but, they're now in the mid-30s. Now we're looking at sort of Gen Z joining the workforce. And I think, when you're interviewing, they're going to be asking, they used to ask about, do I get a MacBook, right? Or what IT equipment, do I get an iPhone? I think now, do you give me AI?
Yeah.
And if you are a corporate laggard who doesn't adapt to the new technology, and you say no, they'll go, well, I'm going to go join the startup or the company that does allow me to use AI as part of my job.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I agree with that 100%. And the conversations I've had is like, if you ask a room full of people and it's like, is your company using AI? If you're answering no, that's not correct because your company are using it. You're just not
Yeah,
regulating it.
yeah,
So it is the same. We've had this before with Shadow IT. We now have
yeah.
Shadow AI. So yes, what we've mentioned, all of the above about data security and that, but at the same time, when it comes to, as you say, hiring people, if you go, no, we don't use AI, it's like,
Ooh.
okay, well, then I can look anywhere else. I suppose
Yeah.
you mentioned data analysis, and I
Mm.
think that has huge implications, particularly like, say, for ourselves with a solution like Stratosphere, which just the data is off the charts. Like
Mm.
it handles so much data. And then if you think about how you could implement AI to analyze that data, because we have all these various different monitoring solutions like our
Mm.
own, and it gathers so much data. But sometimes getting the exact thing you're looking at it can involve a detailed process to go through. Whereas, if you can utilize AI and analyze that data, and as you said, make yourself more productive so you're not spending hours looking over logs,
Mm.
event viewers, all this kind of stuff, and you can just get the summary. Now obviously you need to check it because, as we know, AI, as they said, hallucinates. That's the other word for that, is lies
Yeah.
blatantly. So please check your work, as we've all done since
Yeah.
we've been in school. Please check your work. It is not complete. It is not completely truthful. It will. I've had various different times where I said, "Look, review the roadmap for this product," and it went and created a brand new roadmap with
Yeah.
things not even on it. And I went, "What
It's-
on earth is this?" It's like
yeah.
that's not true. None of that's
Yeah.
true. But
The,
but I think if you dig deeper into what AI is always trying to please you. So you have to. It's like a child. It's always trying to please you. So you have to kind of take that approach that, as you say, it's an assistant. It is not a replacement.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
that applies to everything related to AI, because I think yes, and I think where we are at the moment is you can kind of utilize it, you can get recommendations, but my God, do not let it implement things for you. Like,
Oh no, 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 no.
no, don't if it is part of your monitoring solution and it can make recommendations and make changes to, say, your VDI sizes or anything like that, do not let it even
Yeah, yeah,
attempt to do that,
yeah. No,
because until you've reviewed it,
I,
and
I think the
then
big,
implement it yourself, because that could go really badly really
yeah,
quickly.
I think the one thing in my own personal usage of AI at work, I think there's been this big fear, like, everybody's job's going to get automated by AI, and we're all going to be, redundant. I think that may happen in some use cases, but I think at the end of the day that you still need expert knowledge yourself. So
Hmm.
you could not use. I don't think the use case of, say, let's take the data that's in Liquidware. I can give that to somebody who doesn't understand DEX or EUC,
Hmm.
and give them an account with ChatGPT and give them the data and go, right now, interpret that data for me. The
Yeah.
report I'd get, I imagine, wouldn't be that good. Whereas you still need to be able to look at that report and go, well, that's just like you quite allowed to that. Well, that's just a load of that's rubbish.
Yeah.
But when you actually create that initial prompt, this is where your expertise is needed. So when you're creating that prompt, you know what you want the AI to focus on. So I
Hmm.
want you to look at network latency between the Scunthorpe office and Leeds, right?
Hmm.
I want you to consider this time frame, and because you need that, all you're getting the AI bit to do for me is almost do the grunt work for you, so you're not having to interrogate the Excel spreadsheet or the thing yourself to find.
Yeah.
That customer research is another one. Yes, I can Google like the best of them in researching a customer, but could I get AI to go and do that for me so I can then focus on another task and then come back to the AI when it's done that
Yeah.
research and go, well, okay, yeah, and again, you're still going to roughly know that the information the AI has given you is okay. That sounds about right. It's the
Hmm.
facts and the figures, but yes, I completely understand that point. But when I was at I mentioned university earlier, I used to do a bit of coding, and my degree was around kind of SQL, I suppose, is the simplest way. So I know ablative coding, but I am not a coder. I could not write you an application right now. And I had this idea of an internal app where I could use with my pre-sales team, and I totally used AI as an assistant to build that app. But if I had zero knowledge of, I code in Python these days, but used to a little bit in JavaScript. But I had to know a little bit of Python, as much as I do, to be able to go, right, okay, you're now creating a load of garbage or you're hallucinating.
Well, exactly. And that's that we've got this whole phenomenon at the moment of vibe coding. And like,
right.
It's crazy. Like someone I've seen various different posts on LinkedIn from developers and coders, and they're going, nope, this is not a replacement. This actually made things worse. It made the absolute garbage that I spent hours then redoing, and it was pointless to actually do so. Everyone says, oh, it's going to replace this person. No, it's not. It absolutely isn't. Can it enhance? Now, what I have seen is, and I, can it speed up your coding process? Absolutely. Will it? But it goes back to the point you made around expertise. You need to have the expertise to be able to analyze what the output is from AI, because it won't always be correct. It might be partially correct, but particularly around coding and even like presentations or if I look at it for competitive analysis, I'll go, no, that's absolutely nonsense. That's not true at all. No. I don't know where you got that. Now, in fairness, some of them, if you enable a web search on them, it does give you the sources and you can go and double check them. But some of them, as I said, just go, oh, this solution can do that. And I know, absolutely cannot. Not in a million years can it do that. So again, I don't have any concerns that we're going to be replaced anytime soon. But if you don't utilize it, then you will be by someone who does utilize it, and that's the big thing. And and obviously,
do you use ChatGPT?
Yes.
Have you used the voice?
I don't like the sound of my own voice.
So I suppose it's a little bit like, I have Alexa in the house, but you just kind of shout at Alexa. And
I've Alexa, I've Google. I've used it once or twice and found it. But like
I really like that. Yeah, just to have a conversation and just bounce around some ideas. It was a weird experience because I'm used to shouting at Alexa. But in GPT, it was ever so responsive, and we were just having a chat. Nothing in particular, and then I ended the session, and sure enough, it got it all there, and I could continue. By typing, and I thought that's clever.
I can definitely see the use cases for that. I really can, and in the future, could you go say spin up this VDI pool with this spec, and often an AI agent goes off and does it for you. So
I think you could do that today. I genuinely think you could do
that. Probably could if it wouldn't be very smooth.
No.
But you could absolutely with the level of AI we have today, you could do it.
But ChatGPT, we're not going to turn this into the ChatGPT podcast. Maybe we should. No. But they launched their SDK, right? So now you can directly from from Python, JavaScript, interact with ChatGPT. So that means then you can then hook into other stuff.
Yes.
Citrix have APIs. I'm sure Omnicia and Microsoft have APIs.
Everyone has APIs.
Yeah, everybody's got an API. And that's all it is. And you think, wow. There's a platform, James, you'll know well of this as me, I was involved in a few years ago. It was the reason why I joined Citrix was when they acquired the Octoblue platform. And I was having a conversation the other day. They were the other person who'd heard of Octoblue, because nobody else can ever remember. And
I remember you were a big fanboy back in the day.
Oh, still am. I still am. In fact, there's a ChatGPT story there. I said, God, can you imagine if we had ChatGPT, the SDK, available in Octoblue? Right? Because that was the thing it did. It connected to any.
Yeah.
So what that use case you've got there, we just need to bring that back, which would be like my dream come true. So that ability to connect to any, I believe I don't obviously use Octoblue anymore. It's now kind of suddenly defunct, but you can do Node-RED now, which is like the IBM open source coding flow thing. I think they've got a Chat GPT plugin for that. So that idea that you say, connecting AI to your systems, if you're just a hobbyist or you can do that, right?
We're not suggesting you do this in your production environment, by the way. This is just purely for hobbyists at the moment. Do not. Please do not do this at production scale.
If you do, it wasn't me and James who told you to do it.
No, absolutely.
I'm
adding disclaimers all over the place.
Blame that on the podcast. It was those guys. Well, hey, this is where the cool stuff starts, though. It starts in our labs, doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely. No, I agree. That's where it starts, and kind of can go from there. I think. I think the main thing that boils down to it, and I we've discussed this, is
sorry, I can't believe we've had to give a caveat away of please do not deploy these productions if some poor IT admin guy is going to sat there watching me and you going, oh, dude, I'm going straight in.
I know. Anyway, I digress. So, John, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Take care, James. See you soon.
Cheers.